Hello, दोस्तों. My name is Deepak, and I am a tax code advisor. Today, I want to talk to you about Medicare planning. So, if you are someone who is approaching retirement age, that means you are in your late 50s or early 60s, and you're thinking about retiring in next 5 to 10 years, then you should really pay attention to what I'm going to discuss today. If you have parents who are approaching retirement year or they're already in retirement, then you should definitely pay attention to what I'm going to share. Now, Medicare planning is a big subject, and we can look at it in so many different ways. So everything I say today is very generic in nature, some basics that are important to you. This morning I was doing a consultation with a gentleman who is in his 60s, and he hasn't done really any kind of Medicare planning, and he had a couple $1 million sitting in his retirement account, and that got me thinking that what should we do for him? How can I help him? And I know some of you guys are going, oh my God, do you really even think like that? I mean, how often you have gone to a tax professional and they ask you a question, and the tax professional spends an evening thinking about how can they help you with their Medicare planning? I know a lot of people don't do that, but here we focus on comprehensive planning, and Medicare is always one of those topics because it's so costly. People are spending thousands of dollars. I mean, have you checked with your local nursing home or long-term care facility and ask them how much the Medicare, how much a room would cost, for example? And you'll be surprised. I mean, some of these rooms are costing $10,000, $15,000. I think the cheapest I've seen is like 4,000, maybe. So even the average price might be $6,000 or $7,000. But anyhow, depending upon the area, that can add up a lot. I mean, we're talking about anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 on average. And if you're looking for something superior, that could be in maybe $100,000 to $150,000. So I'm going to talk about how should we think about Medicare planning if you're approaching a retirement age and you have a couple of $1 million sitting in bank account. All right. So let's get started. Now, why do you need to think about Medicare planning to begin with? Well, the answer is very simple, that we put money through our payroll taxes into Social Security, into disability insurance, into Medicare. And when we hit our retirement age, we expect government to take care of us. But government is a social program. They say, look, if you don't have money, if you cannot take care of yourself, we are going to provide you bare minimum help. But if you have resources, if you have some assets, if you have some income, then we expect you to use all of your resources, all of your income. And if you still need help, we're here. We're here to back you up. And that's where the problem comes. That threshold for assets, that threshold for your income is very, very low. If I remember correctly, it might be as low as $2,000. That means if you have more than $2,000, they want to know. Those two, so imagine if you have an asset in India, if you have a property in India, or you have a pension in India, or you have a social security here, or some sort of pension plan here, or maybe you have some IRA accounts, Roth accounts, 401k accounts, rental real estate, short-term rental, long-term rental, doesn't matter. Anything over $2,000, they say, look, you don't qualify. You need to use all of those assets. You need to use all of that money. And that is problematic to people, because one way to think about that is I spent my entire life putting money into Medicare, and now when I need it, government is saying no. So that's where the problem is, and that's why people think about Medicare planning to begin with. Now, I understand their feeling. I understand where they're coming from. But I want you to think about some points which might actually help you make a better decision today. So, for example, as long as you have enough assets to take care of yourself and your Medicare needs, maybe you just need to look at the world a little bit differently. Because let's just say, if you reposition your assets, that means you're going to say, I'm going to transfer, let's assume for a second that you have $5 million sitting in your retirement account. And you say, I'm going to transfer these $5 million to my grandson, or some trust, or maybe to your cat or dog, whoever you love, and you want to transfer them over. So even if you reposition your assets, Medicaid requires you to use most of your income, like Social Security, pension, maybe rental income that you might be getting. So before they start paying for your nursing home care, they want to account for all of that income, not just the assets. So that's one mistake I oftentimes people see, that people will say, "Oh, I transfer my house to my son." Well, that's great, but that doesn't help. Now, I do want to point out that in Medicare calculation, they oftentimes do not include your primary residence. The point I'm saying is that if you do decide to transfer those assets, you're not really saving as much as you think. Now, some of your kids might want to take care of you because they love you so much. Now, I know some of you guys are laughing at me right now, but trust me, when parents are in need, oftentimes kids step up and they take care of them. So don't be surprised if they actually don't want you to go to a nursing home. Don't be surprised if they actually want to take care of you. So maybe they're happy to pay for your care. But what I'm thinking is, why not use your assets and come up with a plan to pay your kids? Now, you might be thinking, especially if you've been watching my videos, where Deepak, don't we have that limitation for gifting to our kids? You're absolutely right. And that's why I said we need to plan for it. We can plan for it in such a way that you can transfer income to them. You can pay them for taking care of you, and that can help you reduce your taxes, give money to your kids to take care of you, and then they can use that money to perhaps invest, or they can use it to hire somebody to take care of you. So I think it's a win-win situation. So if you're thinking about your Medicare planning right now, I would strongly advise you to include your kids in that conversation and get their point of view. Another problem I see a lot of people run into is that Medicaid planning often means giving up control of your assets, because, like I said, you're transferring those to your cat, dog, kids, grandkids, whoever you like them, or perhaps even in a trust. Now, I don't want to confuse you. Some of you guys might have a revocable trust. Oftentimes, that's what most people have. That's the one I'm talking about here. You can actually set up an irrevocable trust, and that trust defines how your assets will be distributed, but at least it takes the control away from you. So some people don't like that. They want the control. They want to be able to change their mind. They want to be able to decide what they want to do. So why lose control just because of Medicare planning? In some cases, especially if you're married, you might don't need to do anything. You might actually qualify for Medicare to begin with. So we do need to run some numbers. We do need to run some calculations. That's why I advise all my clients that if you're approaching age 60, and you're planning on, let's say, claiming your retirement benefits in 65, 67, or 70, then let's do some retirement planning comprehensively. Let's take a look at your retirement account, your income, your pension, your Social Security, your Medicare, see what kind of situations they will be in. We don't have to get into specifics, but we should have some generic idea about our situation, because only then we can do planning. So if you are in that age group, then I would recommend that we look into consultation. Some of you might feel awkward about asking government for help, especially when you have a lot of money sitting in your bank account, or maybe your kids might feel that way. So again, if you feel that way, it doesn't make any sense for you to ask government for help. You want to be able to live your life with dignity. You want to, when you leave this world, you want to go out there on your own terms. You don't want to have a regret. So some people just don't feel right about asking government for help. Why? Because they feel that somebody else should be able to use that help. Maybe somebody who was not lucky enough to have that much money in their retirement account. And if you have a lot of money, like I said, if you have like $4 or $5 million sitting in retirement account, especially if they are in 401k or a pre-tax IRA accounts, then just moving those funds could be a huge tax liability on you. It might also require you to file gift tax returns. It might also take away from step-up basis that your kids might qualify for if they were to inherit that money from you. So there are a lot of tax consequences for taking that action to begin with. Another big mistake that I see people make, or at least they don't realize, is that Medicare has 5-year look back window. So if you are already in poor health, or you are close to needing care, or maybe your spouse is close to needing care, it might be too late to do any of this at all. Why? Because, like I said, the government wants to take a look at last 5 years, see if you transfer any assets, if you transfer any business to somebody else, and they're going to count all that income. So we need to make sure that whatever planning we do it well in advance. And that brings me to perhaps the most important point about Medicare planning for rich people. That is quality of care. See, as we make more money, we get used to certain quality of life. We like certain car, we like certain food, we like our home to be decorated certain way, we want people to take care of us in certain way. It all has something to do with how much money you have. And when you go on Medicare, when you're asking government for help, can you get it? Yes, but they're going to do the minimum, and that minimum might not be acceptable to you. Versus if you do an income planning and you figure out and what I'm talking about is just simply you're taking a budget and assigning it to Medicare expenses. But don't just randomly do it. Do it in such a way that it's beneficial to you. It's tax efficient for you. It's tax efficient for your family. Sometimes it might be even making money for you. So there are a lot of different ways to go about that. That's a subject matter for a different video. But what I'm trying to say is, if you have money, who is going to stop you from getting care in Europe or in India or wherever you want to be? Maybe you want to spend your time on beaches and ask for, doctors to visit you there. Maybe you want to try alternative medicines. I mean, I met with a client few months ago who wanted to use stem cell treatment, but they were not able to get because Medicare did not cover that. And I'm sure there are many other experimental techniques out there that Medicare doesn't cover. So if you have money, you can use any kind of treatment you like. And that brings me up on very important tax strategy, which is HSA accounts. So I advise all of my clients to start maximizing their HSA accounts for this Medicare planning in future. And you're able to do that, especially if you start early. But even if you start late, there are some catch-up contributions and stuff like that. But anyhow, I do have a separate video on HSA if you want to do that. But if we were to do a consultation call, we will talk about HSA and some of the other strategies that we can use, such as setting up a C Corp and maximizing your HSA, and perhaps even doing self-directing HSA to help you reach your goals faster. So there are a lot of different ways to deal with that. But the main point is, if you have money, you can get care anywhere in the world you want, right? And we're not talking about getting rid of your insurance. We're not talking about getting rid of your basic Medicare. We're talking about some of these other things that are not covered by Medicare to begin with. So the main takeaway is that Medicare planning is not one size fit all solution. I cannot cover all the details in one short video. If you have substantial resources, if you have assets, you have good income, then I would advise you that you focus on getting the best care for yourself. Focus on the quality. Focus on how you want to receive the care. Focus on how can we structure it in a manner that is tax efficient for you and your family. Whether you want to receive care in a nursing home, in a hospital, in a private facility, or in your own home. So you have a lot of options. So I know many of my clients are perhaps in that kind of income range where people have few $1 million saved up from their retirement, and they're always worried about how are they going to deal with Medicare, especially when it comes down to long-term care. Now, insurance could be one way to deal with it, but even insurances do not provide unlimited benefits. They only provide limited benefits, and they cost a lot. That's why I'm focusing more where you have more control, where you can be in charge of your own destiny and figure out what to do with it. And a lot of the savings, by the way, if you don't use it for healthcare, there are other ways to transition it for other purpose. So you can always repurpose those funds as well. So it's not like if you don't use them for medical, those funds are lost. But anyhow, thank you so much for spending your last 15 minutes with me. My name is Deepak, and I'm a tax code advisor. If you need any kind of tax advice, then you can just reach out to me, set up a consultation by going to tax passcodeadvisors.com. I do regular discussion calls where we talk about various financial topics, immigration topic, economics topics, tax topics, and debate them. So that way we get a little bit more better answers. We get a little bit more comprehensive view of a subject matter, and it brings out questions from people that I haven't even thought about. But if you have a question about tax, about retirement planning, education planning, then you're welcome to ask by putting your comments in this video, and I'll be happy to come back to you with next video and answer those questions for you. So before you go, please like, share, and comment on the video. I'll really appreciate it. And if you have family member who can use my help, please definitely reach out to them and share my information with them. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.